Legend has it that the world used to speak a single language and everyone understood each other. But when the people of the world decided to erect the Tower of Babel, it was struck down by the heavens and the nations of the world were divided by different languages as a result of it. Today, there are close to 7,000 languages spoken in the world, and many of the modern languages that we know of have splintered from older languages because of varying cultures and conquests and invasions, but they haven't all changed. So in this video, we're gonna count down to 10 of the world's oldest languages that are still being used today and have in more ways than one help influence the modern languages we use around the world. We'll start off with number 10, Icelandic. The language of the Norsemen and quite possibly the language of the gods of Asgard, Icelandic is an Indo-European language with Nord-Germanic origins. Many Germanic languages like English and modern-day German have sprung from, well, ancient Germanic and later on streamlined themselves into different other dialects and modern-day languages, losing some Indo-European traits. But since it was brought to the region by Norse settlers, Icelandic has remained vastly unchanged even after the Danish colonization of Iceland from the 14th to the 20th century. It may have developed, but it still retained many of its features. In fact, Icelandic speakers today can easily read the ancient sagas written centuries ago. Number 9, Macedonia. As far as age goes, Slavic languages such as Russian, Croatian, Czech, and Polish are relatively young. These languages have only split off from a common ancestral language known as Common Slavic, where missionaries Cyril and Methodius began to standardize it. The two took the language with them in the 9th century as they went to convert the northern Slavs to Christianity. This language, known today as Macedonian, is the oldest relative of Old Church Slavonic that is used in many religious rites in the Eastern Orthodox churches. Number 8, Irish Gaelic. Spoken by a minority in Ireland today, Irish Gaelic was once the country's common tongue. Even so, it is still considered as a second language by many who can fluently speak it. Originating from the Celtic branch of Indo-European languages, Irish Gaelic in its primitive form had developed written text around the 4th century AD and predates written Latin. Currently, Irish is the recognized national language of the Republic of Ireland and a minority language of Northern Ireland. However, in many parts of the country, this old form of the language still survives and is spoken and preserved by locals. Number 7, Finnish. A distant cousin of the Icelandic language, Finnish has a history that stretches back earlier than the 16th century. A member of the Finno-Ugric language, Finnish together with Estonian and Hungarian share common traits that include loanwords that were adopted into the language as its own. Borrowing from Germanic and Gothic languages, Finnish has retained many of these loanwords to this day. While many Germanic languages have evolved and done away with old words, Finnish, however, over the centuries have managed to survive and preserve other older languages by assimilating them into its own. Number 6, Georgian. Georgian is the only Caucasian language with an ancient literary tradition. Since the Caucasus region, composing of Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Georgia, is a goldmine for linguists, and Georgian has lured historians and scholars alike due to its unique and elegant alphabet that predates Latin, and the language has been in use since the 3rd century AD. Number 5, Farsi. Also known as Persian, Farsi is a language that is widely spoken in modern-day Iran, Tajikistan, and Afghanistan. The language is actually a direct descendant of Old Persian, the language of its once mighty empire. Taking form at around 800 AD, Farsi remains relatively unchanged and still carries many of its grammar and syntax to this day. Even more remarkable is that speakers of modern-day Persian can still read a piece of writing from around 900 AD with considerably less difficulty than an English speaker reading text from the 14th or 15th century or even Shakespeare. Number 4, Basque. This is a linguistic mystery and is only spoken by a handful of people in the region known as Basque near the borders of Spain and France. While it is a language unlike any other, Basque, similar to Georgian, is completely unrelated to any language, most especially the Romance language to which French and Spanish belong. Linguists and language experts have thought of several theories about the language's origin, but cannot even come close to a glimmer of an answer. What is known is that Basque existed long before the Romans arrived in the region, with Latin that would eventually evolve and develop into French and Spanish. Number 3, Hebrew. Hebrew is a special case, but is nonetheless one of the oldest languages in this list. At around 400 AD, the language actually fell out of use and was only employed and preserved as a liturgical language for Jews across the world. However, around the 19th and 20th century, along with the rise of Zionism, Hebrew made a return and became the official language of Israel. While there are differences between modern-day Hebrew that is used and spoken from the ancient Hebrew appearing in religious texts, it should be noted that native speakers of the language can easily comprehend the literature because many of them often had Yiddish as their native language, which makes it much easier to bridge the two versions of Hebrew. Number 2, Latin. It is often said that Latin is a dead language, and and why shouldn't it be? Unlike Georgian and Irish Gaelic, Latin has practically fallen out of fashion when the Roman Empire collapsed. We may from time to time hear a few phrases that have survived and made it to the modern days, especially from someone trying to compel a demon to leave. But despite this, Latin is still most prevalent in religious texts, especially in the Roman Catholic world where rites and ceremonies are often held in Latin. Today, as it quietly survives this century, it is the official language of Vatican City and is fluently spoken by members of the clergy worldwide. In Poland, it is also recognized as an official language. Of course, owing a lot of our vocabulary and language history to Latin, several schools and institutions around the world still offer courses in Latin in order to preserve it and prevent its extinction. Finally, number 1, Greek. What language deserves the top spot of our list better than a language that to this day is still widely used and is the national language of a country to which it owes its namesake? Modern Greek may have considerably evolved since its inception. It is still one of the most historic and widely used living languages in the world. With Latin coming in at a close second, there are over 34 centuries worth of records and literature in Greek. Not to mention that many of the stories about Greek myths and the academic principles laid down by people like Socrates and Aristotle have all been translated from one source language that survives in a much more modern form today. In the religious world, Greek stands side by side with Latin and Hebrew as the means to which sacred scriptures had been penned down. And today it is recognized as the official language of 2 countries, Greece and Cyprus. And unfortunately, Chinese is not one of the languages that has been passed down. And of course, one of the languages I know, Chinese, is a language that changed a lot throughout the centuries because of the many dynasties and ethnicities in China. And I kind of wish it remained unchanged because nowadays trying to memorize a Chinese character it's really tough. But back then, a lot of times the characters, they're just like drawings of whatever the words are trying to talk about. So if that was still the case today, and if somebody asks you to write a Chinese character like fire and you draw like a fire, that might actually be accurate. Alright guys, hopefully you liked this video. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you later.